The radio crackled with static as dust settled over the rocky canyon walls of eastern Nevada. Limestone dust hung in the air, mixed with the acrid smell of gunpowder. Lieutenant Sarah Cross pressed herself against the concrete barrier, her team pinned down from 3 sides. "Negative on air support," came the voice through her headset. "No reinforcements available. You're on your own." The machine gun nest in the collapsed water tower commanded the entire valley floor. Every time one of her Marines tried to move, bullets chewed up the ground around them. To the west, an RPG team held the high ground on a rooftop. To the east, a sniper kept them pinned with methodical precision. Corporal Jenkins lay bleeding beside her, shrapnel from a mortar round and embedded in his thigh. In the warehouse at the south end of the canyon, 12 American contractors were trapped, engineers who'd been caught in the wrong place when the ambush started. "Ma'am," Jenkins whispered through gritted teeth, "we got maybe 10 minutes before they flank us completely." Sarah counted her remaining ammunition. 3 magazines, 7 Marines, 1 way in, no way out. The northern ridge looked impossible to climb, loose shale and thick brush rising almost vertically from the canyon floor. It was the one angle the enemy hadn't bothered to watch. Too steep, too exposed, too dangerous for anyone to attempt under fire, but someone was up there. The radio suddenly hissed with an unfamiliar voice. Female, calm, professional. "Blue team, this is Overwatch, channel 7 secure, authentication, Desert Rose." Sarah's finger froze over the transmit button. Desert Rose was a code word from classified operations 3 years old, operations that officially never happened. "Overwatch, identify yourself," Sarah demanded. "This is a closed military frequency." The response came back steady and sure. "Someone who knows the way home. Alpha first, Charlie second, Bravo last. Wait for my rhythm." Through her binoculars, Sarah scanned the northern ridge. Nothing but rock and shadow. But somewhere up there, hidden among the stones, someone was about to change everything. Staff Sergeant Maria Santos adjusted her position behind the improvised hide she'd carved into the cliff face. The rifle was old but perfectly maintained. A 308 with a worn wooden stock and hand-carved grip wrapped in paracord. Etched into the wood was a single phrase: "Bring them home." Her range cards were scratched on torn paper, distances calculated by hand. 600 meters to the machine gun nest, 540 to the sniper position, 670 to the RPG team. Wind flags made from dental floss hung at calculated intervals, showing a steady crosswind at 8 knots. She'd been watching the canyon for 6 hours, waiting for the inevitable. This was a known ambush point, a choke where the old mining road narrowed between 2 cliff faces. She'd studied the tactical problem from every angle, mapped every firing position, calculated every shot. The machine gunner made his first mistake when he exposed himself to reload. Through her scope, Maria could see his muzzle flash clearly. She controlled her breathing. 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out. The crosshairs settled just above the weapon itself. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The shot would echo through the canyon like thunder, announcing her presence to every hostile in the valley. But it would also open the door for 7 Marines to go home alive. Below, Sarah's voice crackled through the radio. "Overwatch, we have wounded. If we don't break this pattern in 60 seconds, we're looking at civilian casualties." Maria's eye never left the scope. The machine gunner was back in position, laying down suppressing fire to keep the Marines pinned. Behind him she could see movement, more fighters moving to encircle the trapped Americans. "Blue team," she whispered into her radio. "Alpha first, wait for the echo." The canyon walls would amplify the sound, making it impossible to pinpoint her exact location. One shot to disable the machine gun, one chance to start the chain reaction that would save lives. Maria Santos had been officially dead for 3 years. The casualty report from Operation Sandcastle listed her as KIA when her Overwatch position took a direct hit from a rocket-propelled grenade. No body recovered. No trace found in the rubble. But Maria hadn't died that day. She'd been thrown clear by the blast, buried under rocks and debris for 18 hours before crawling out with a concussion and no memory of who she was supposed to be. By the time she remembered, it seemed easier to stay dead, to become someone who existed only in the moments when people needed a guardian angel on the high ground. She'd been tracking this area for weeks, following intelligence reports about increased hostile activity along the mining roads. When she'd intercepted Sarah's radio traffic that morning, a routine patrol that had turned into a death trap, she'd known this was why she was here. The machine gun opened up again, bullets sparking off the concrete where the Marines sheltered. Through her scope, Maria could see Sarah trying to manage her wounded while keeping her team from being overrun. Overwatch to Blue Team, Maria said quietly. I have eyes on 12 hostiles, 3 primary positions. When I start, you'll have a 90-second window to move your wounded. Copy? Roger. Overwatch, we're ready. Maria settled into her final firing position, bipod legs steady against a sandbag filled with local sand. Scope cleared, despite the scratches around the edges. Her grandfather's pencil tied to the rifle with dental floss, the same one he'd used to mark targets in Vietnam. The machine gunner was about to learn that some debts get paid with interest. Maria's finger found the trigger. She whispered a prayer her grandfather had taught her. For those who serve, for those who wait, for those who come home. The first shot would be for Alpha, the machine gun nest that kept the Marines pinned down. The second would be for Charlie, the sniper who thought he owned the Eastern Ridge. The third would be for Bravo, the RPG team that threatened to level the warehouse full of civilians. But she wouldn't kill unless she had to. Her grandfather had taught her that precision was more valuable than power, that every bullet carried the weight of someone's life. Maria Santos took a deep breath, found the quiet moment between heartbeats, and prepared to remind the canyon that some guardians never really die. They just learn to watch from higher ground. Crack! The first shot shattered the canyon's silence like a thunderclap. The sound echoed off the limestone walls, creating a wave of reverberations that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Through her scope, Maria watched the machine gunner stumble backward as his weapon suddenly went silent. She'd aimed for the feed mechanism, not the man, a precision shot that disabled without killing. The heavy gun tilted sideways, useless. "Moving wounded!" Sarah's voice crackled through the radio immediately. Maria shifted her rifle 5 degrees east, adjusted elevation by 2 clicks, and waited for the limestone dust to settle. Phase 2, Charlie target. The enemy sniper on the eastern ridge had heard the shot and was frantically scanning the northern slope with his scope, trying to locate the source. He made the fatal mistake of exposing himself as he searched for a better angle. Crack! The second shot shattered the enemy sniper's scope and sent him diving behind the concrete barrier of his rooftop position. Not a kill shot. Maria had aimed for his equipment, not his life. But now, for the first time in 10 minutes, the Marines could lift their heads without immediately drawing fire. "Jesus Christ!" she heard Corporal Davis whisper through the radio. "Whoever's up there is shooting like a surgeon." Sarah's voice was tight with controlled urgency. "Overwatch, we're moving Jenkins to secondary position. Can you maintain cover?" "Affirmative. Hold your position by the fallen power lines. Stay in that shadow." Phase 3. Bravo target. The RPG team on the western rooftop was the most dangerous. Through her scope, Maria could see the gunner raising the tube, preparing to fire on the Marine's position. Behind the building, clearly visible through her crosshairs, was a residential structure with thin walls and multiple windows where local families were sheltering. She couldn't aim center mass. Too much risk of the round going through the target and hitting civilians. Too much chance that an RPG detonation on the roof would spray shrapnel into the house behind. Maria shifted her aim to precision over power. The RPG gunner was bracing the weapon with his right hand while his left finger reached for the trigger. Crack! Her bullet struck the gunner's right wrist, not a fatal wound, but a disabling one. The heavy RPG tube slipped from his grip and rolled off the edge of the roof, clattering harmlessly into the alley below. The humanitarian impact was immediate. No secondary explosion, no shrapnel hitting the residential building, no panic from the families sheltering inside. "Blue team, this is Overwatch. Primary threats neutralized. You have a 90-second window for full extraction." Sarah's Marines moved with the precision of a unit that had trained together for years. 2 men carried Jenkins on improvised stretchers made from their packs and rifles. The others provided covering fire and security, advancing exactly along the route Maria had indicated, in the shadow of the fallen power lines where remaining enemy positions couldn't get clean shots. But Maria's scope picked up something that made her blood run cold. Additional hostile fighters were moving into positions that hadn't existed 10 minutes earlier, fresh contacts coming from the south. "Overwatch to Blue team. I have movement on your 6 o'clock. Additional hostiles. Give me 5 more minutes to clear your rear." 2 more precise shots echoed through the canyon, not kill shots, disabling wounds that stopped the pursuit without creating a bloodbath. A radio operator lost his antenna to a perfectly placed bullet. A flanking team dove for cover when Maria's round struck the ground directly in front of them, spraying them with rock fragments that sent them scrambling for safety. When the last Marine reached the extraction vehicles, Maria's voice came through the radio one final time. "Blue team clear. Extraction complete. Good hunting, Marines." "Outstanding work, Overwatch!" Sarah called back. "Who are you?" A long silence followed, filled only with the sound of the wind whistling through the radio frequency. "Someone who remembers the way home," came the quiet response. Then the radio went silent. 40 miles away, communications specialist Deacon was monitoring multiple frequencies in the Tactical Operations Center when he caught the exchange. Desert Rose was a call sign that made him immediately stop everything he was doing. He opened classified archives on his secure terminal. Desert Rose assigned to Staff Sergeant Maria Santos, sniper specialist, listed as KIA 4 years ago in a different mountain range. File flagged in red, presumed dead, body never recovered. Deacon switched to Sarah's frequency. "Blue Leader, this is Tioki. Request additional verification from your Overwatch support." Sarah responded immediately. "TOC, Overwatch provided tactical support and enabled our extraction. Request confirmation of friendly status." She paused, then added, "Overwatch, if you're monitoring this frequency, please authenticate." The response came back in Maria Santos's calm, professional voice. She provided 3 pieces of information that weren't in any public record. The Morse code rhythm her old team used to tap before taking shots. ... The name of their unit mascot, a German shepherd called Ranger. And a phrase from their standard operating procedures: "Wait for the quiet moment between heartbeats." Deacon stared at his screen. The information matched classified files perfectly. "If you're who I think you are," he said slowly into his headset, "you have full authority to coordinate operations on the northern slope for 10 minutes. Maria's coordination was immediate and professional. "Blue team, maintain current position along the shadow line. Keep 2 meter spacing from the wall. Bravo element, on my count, move to secondary corridor. Nobody fires until I give the word." Her voice carried the authority of someone who'd done this before, many times. From her position on the ridge, Maria began systematically eliminating remaining threats. Target 1. Enemy communications officer on the eastern roof, a figure with a radio backpack trying to coordinate reinforcements. Crack! Her bullet hit the antenna array. Communications went silent, leaving enemy units confused and cut off. Target 2. A grenadier on a balcony pulling the pin from a grenade. Crack! Maria's shot hit the window frame beside him, sending stone fragments into his eyes. The grenade dropped from his startled hands and rolled out of the building, detonating harmlessly in the street as he instinctively covered her face. Target 3. A flanking team trying to circle through an alley to cut off the Marines' retreat. Crack! Her bullet struck the ground directly in front of them, raising a shower of gravel. Both men dove for cover and stayed there. Sergeant Rodriguez, a veteran on Sarah's team, immediately recognized the shooting pattern. "Those aren't kill shots," he whispered to Davis. "That's precision. Disable, disrupt, redirect." Sarah pressed her radio. "Tukey, you seeing this?" "Confirmed, Blue Leader. Textbook tactical support." But there was something else in Deacon's voice. Recognition. "Overwatch, your shooting signature matches someone we used to work with. Someone who saved a lot of lives in Operation Sand Castle." Maria didn't respond immediately. Sarah pressed. "Overwatch, if Staff Sergeant Santos was your call sign, why are you here?" "I heard the canyon calling," came the quiet reply, "and I had something unfinished. Getting someone home." The final phase of the extraction came with a humanitarian moment that defined everything Maria Santos stood for. Through her scope, she saw a small face in the warehouse window. A child, maybe 8 years old, watching the firefight with terrified eyes. She had a clear shot on an enemy position, but the angle meant her bullet would pass directly over the child's head. Maria lifted her finger from the trigger and waited. Discipline over opportunity. Civilian safety over tactical advantage. "Wait for the quiet moment," she whispered to herself, repeating her grandfather's words. When the child moved away from the window, she fired. Crack! The last threat was neutralized. "Blue team, you have clear passage to extraction vehicles. I'll cover you for 30 more seconds." As Sarah's team reached their vehicles, they heard 2 final shots from the ridge. Crack! Crack! Through binoculars, they could see 2 enemy vehicles with their tires shot out, unable to pursue. The chase was over. Sarah tried one more time. "Overwatch, if you're Maria Santos, why were you declared KIA?" "Sometimes it's easier to be an echo than a face. People can go home and forget echoes at dinner. But I'm alive. I'm where I need to be. I'm where I need to." The reconnaissance team reached the northern ridge at first light, climbing the treacherous shale slope that had seemed impossible to scale under fire. What they found told the story of patience and precision that had saved 7 lives. The hide was expertly constructed, natural camouflage woven with military netting, a shallow depression carved into the rock face, invisible from below and protected from above. Spent shell casings were collected and counted. 7 shots, 7 targets neutralized or disabled, not a single round wasted. The improvised range cards were still in place, sketched in pencil on scraps of paper, distances calculated by hand, wind patterns noted with timestamps, every detail of the tactical situation mapped with a professional precision. But what struck the team most was what they didn't find. No personal gear, no abandoned equipment, no trace of whoever had been there except for 3 items. A short pencil tied with dental floss, still attached to where the trigger had rested. A piece of carved wood, polished smooth by years of use, with "Bring them home" etched deep into the surface, and handprints in the dust, already being erased by the morning wind. Lieutenant Sarah Cross stood at the position, looking down into the valley. The angles were perfect. Each shot had required incredible skill and judgment. She picked up the carved piece of wood, feeling its weight. "She was watching over this place," Sarah said quietly. "Maybe watching over all of us." Sergeant Rodriguez held up the pencil. This belonged to someone's grandfather. Korean War era, maybe Vietnam. He paused, studying the worn markings. Whoever she is, this runs in the family. At the Tactical Operations Center, Communications Specialist Deacon processed the incident report and issued a formal recommendation. New Standard Operating Procedure 247. When a valid historical authentication code is verified from an unassigned Overwatch position, tactical commanders are authorized to delegate local coordination for a maximum of 10 minutes. This procedure, unofficially called the Desert Rose Protocol, gained additional rules over time. Disable when possible, destroy only when necessary, precision over power, protection over glory, wait for quiet moments between heartbeats. Back at the main base, a small addition was made to the memorial wall. Not a name or rank, just 2 words carved in simple letters. Unseen, unforgotten. Below it, in a glass case, was displayed a pencil, the same type they'd found on the ridge. The placard read, "Before you shoot, count to 4. Before you pull the trigger, find the quiet moment." The children from the warehouse were all safely evacuated, their families relocated to secure areas outside the conflict zone. One little girl, maybe 8 years old, asked Sarah before they left, "Ma'am, who made those echoes in the mountains?" Sarah knelt down to meet her eyes. "Someone who keeps the lights on so people can find their way home." "Will she keep the lights on for others too?" Sarah looked toward the ridge where the wind was already carrying away the last traces that anyone had ever been there. "I think so, sweetheart. I think she will." 3 months later, Sarah received an encrypted message through secure channels. No sender identification, just coordinates and a brief note. Blue Team performed well under pressure. Proud to serve alongside professionals who bring each other home. Desert Rose. Sarah tried to trace the message, but it had been routed through so many military communication networks that finding its origin was impossible. Whoever Desert Rose was, she had access to classified frequencies and the technical knowledge to stay invisible. But that wasn't what kept Sarah awake at night. It was the realization that somewhere out there, Maria Santos was still serving, still watching, still protecting the paths that led back to safety, family, and the people who waited for soldiers to come home. The valley had returned to its natural quiet. Only the sound of the wind remained, flowing through the stone passages, carrying the memory of shots that had thundered like storm and opened the way to rescue. But everyone who had been there knew the truth. Somewhere high above, someone was still watching, still guarding the routes that led back home, still answering when canyons called for help. The official record would show a successful extraction with no friendly casualties, supported by unidentified friendly overwatch. The classified addendum noted the use of precision marksmanship techniques consistent with advanced military training, possibly special operations background. But Sarah Cross knew better. She'd heard the voice on the radio, calm, professional, carrying the weight of someone who'd made these impossible shots before, someone who'd chosen to become a ghost so that others could remain visible, someone who measured success not in confirmed kills, but in the number of people who made it home for dinner. In her after-action report, Sarah wrote, "Request formal recognition for Desert Rose, call sign unknown. Tactical support prevented civilian casualties and enabled successful extraction of wounded personnel. Recommend addition to approved Overwatch assets for future operations in this AOR." The response came back stamped in red. "Insufficient information for personnel identification. Recommend standard debrief procedures." Sarah wasn't surprised. Some guardians were meant to stay invisible. Some heroes worked best when the world forgot their names but remembered their actions. That night, she stood on the observation deck at her forward operating base, looking out toward the mountains where Maria Santos kept her eternal watch. The stars were brilliant in the clear desert air, and somewhere among them, she imagined, was a guardian angel with a rifle and a grandfather's pencil, waiting for the next time someone needed a quiet voice in the radio static saying, "Someone who remembers the way home." The wind carried sounds across the valley, night birds calling to each other, the distant hum of generators, the soft conversations of Marines settling in for sleep. Safe sounds, home sounds, because somewhere up there, unseen and unforgotten, Desert Rose was still on watch, still bringing them home, one precise shot at a time. 2 years later, Staff Sergeant Maria Santos sat cross-legged on a different ridge, this time overlooking a valley in northern Arizona. Her weathered hands cleaned the same rifle that had saved 7 Marines in Nevada, the carved wooden stock still bearing her grandfather's words. "Bring them home." The radio beside her crackled with familiar static. She monitored multiple frequencies now, not just military channels, but emergency services, search and rescue operations, anyone who might need eyes on high ground. Her new calling sign varied with each mission. Desert Rose, Mountain Echo, Silent Guardian. Always different, always the same purpose. A voice cut through the static, young, scared, unfamiliar. Any station, this is Rescue Team Delta. We have hikers trapped by flash flooding in Copper Canyon. No air support available due to weather. Request immediate assistance." Maria adjusted her headset and studied the topographical map spread beside her. She knew this terrain. 3 narrow passages led out of Copper Canyon, but only one would be passable with floodwaters running high. "Rescue Team Delta, this is Overwatch," she transmitted calmly. "I have eyes on your location. Count of hikers?" "Overwatch, we have 4 civilians trapped on a ledge approximately 300 meters up the north wall. Rising water, maybe 2 hours before their position is compromised." Through her high-powered scope, Maria could see them clearly. A family, 2 adults, 2 children, huddled on a narrow shelf of a rock as muddy water churned below them. The rescue team was positioned at the canyon mouth, unable to reach them due to the flooding. But Maria saw something the ground team couldn't. A series of limestone terraces on the eastern face, invisible from below, but clearly defined from her elevated position. A path. "Rescue Delta, this is Overwatch. I can guide you to a route. You'll need ropes and technical gear. Are you equipped for Class 4 climbing?" "Affirmative, Overwatch. We have full technical rescue capabilities." For the next 90 minutes, Maria became their eyes and voice. She guided the rescue team up the hidden terraces, calling out each handhold and anchor point. When falling rocks threatened their ascent, she spotted the danger and radioed warnings. When they lost sight of their objective in the maze of canyon walls, she redirected them with the precision of someone who'd spent years reading terrain like a map. "Rescue Delta, hold position. Rockfall on your right, approximately 30 seconds. Wait for my all clear." She watched through her scope as loose stones cascaded down the cliff face, exactly where the rescue team would have been climbing. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. "Patience saves more lives than speed." "All clear, Rescue Delta. Continue your ascent. Next anchor point is 2 meters above your current position, just left of the vertical crack." When the rescue team finally reached the stranded family, Maria felt the familiar warmth that came with lives saved. Not through violence this time, but through guidance. Not with bullets, but with words. "Overwatch, this is Rescue Delta. We have all 4 civilians. Initiating descent procedures." "Copy. Rescue Delta. Weather update. Storm cell moving in from the southwest. You have approximately 45 minutes before conditions deteriorate. Recommend expedited extraction." As she watched the rescue team carefully lower each family member to safety, Maria thought about the path that had brought her here. From combat zones to canyon rescues, from taking lives to saving them, from Staff Sergeant Santos to whoever she needed to be in each moment when someone called for help. Her grandfather's pencil lay beside the radio, worn smooth by decades of use in 3 different wars: Korea, Vietnam, and now her own to unnamed conflicts against geography, weather, and time. The enemy had changed, but the mission remained the same: bring them home. The rescue was completed as the first raindrops began to fall. The family was safe at the canyon mouth, wrapped in emergency blankets and being checked by paramedics. The rescue team was gathering their gear, professional pride evident in their efficient movements. Overwatch, this is Rescue Delta. Mission accomplished. Outstanding coordination and guidance. Can we get your name for our report? Maria smiled, the expression invisible to everyone but the desert wind. Just put down Guardian Angel. That's what my grandfather would have called it. Roger, Guardian Angel. If you're ever in our area, first round's on us. As the rescue vehicles drove away from the canyon, their red and blue lights disappearing into the desert dusk, Maria began packing her equipment. The rifle went into its worn case, the radio into its weatherproof bag, the maps folded with military precision. But she left something behind, as she always did. This time it was a small cairn of stacked stones at the edge of the ridge, marking the position where someone had watched over Copper Canyon when it needed protection most. She climbed down the ridge in the gathering darkness, her movements sure and quiet despite the rough terrain. At the bottom, a battered pickup truck waited, loaded with camping gear and emergency supplies. The license plate read simply, DSRT RSC. As she drove through the Arizona night toward her next destination, coordinates gleaned from intercepted radio traffic about a missing research team in the Sonoran Desert, Maria reflected on the life she'd chosen. She owned nothing permanent except her rifle and her grandfather's pencil. She had no fixed address, no official identity, no recognition or awards. She was a ghost who materialized when people needed saving and disappeared when the job was done. But she was exactly where she belonged. Her radio crackled with a new transmission. Any station, this is Research Team Beta. We are lost in the Sonoran Desert, approximately 30 miles northwest of Tucson. GPS equipment failed. Request assistance. Maria smiled and reached for her headset. Research Team Beta, this is Guardian Angel. I have your approximate location on satellite imagery. Are you equipped with signal mirrors or emergency flares? Guardian Angel, affirmative. We have both. Excellent. Deploy a flare in 60 seconds. I'll guide you to the main road. As she drove through the desert night, Maria Santos carried with her the voices of everyone she'd saved. Marines in Nevada canyons, hikers in Arizona floods, researchers lost in desert mazes. Their gratitude was her paycheck. Their safe return home her only reward. The stars overhead were brilliant in the clear desert air, each one a reminder that some lights shine brightest when they're far from everything else. Some guardians work best in the darkness, invisible to those they protect, but always present when the call comes. In the distance, a flare bloomed red against the night sky. Someone else needed to find their way home. Maria Santos pressed the accelerator and drove toward the light, carrying her grandfather's wisdom, her rifle, and the certain knowledge that tomorrow would bring another canyon, another call for help, another chance to prove that some debts of service are never fully paid, only passed forward, one rescue at a time. The desert stretched endless ahead, full of people who might need a guardian angel they'd never see, and Maria Santos would be there, watching from high ground when they called.